It's finally Friday. It's Friday, Friday.
Thank God it's
Welcome back to the Friday show, presented by the Match Series, which resumes Labor Day weekend at Parks Racing in Philadelphia. I'm not in Philadelphia, I'm at Del Mar at the Brigantine Restaurant. I'm joined this week with Scott Jagow on vacation by Gary Fenton, managing partner of Little Red Feather Racing, and he's the vice chairman of the Thoroughbred Owners of California. Gary, obviously there's a lot going on here in California. One thing I'd like to ask you about in partnerships is, what are the kinds of things prospective owners are asking about these days, and has it changed much as a result of the obvious crisis situation that we've had here in California?
I don't think much has changed, believe it or not. First of all, Ray, great to be here. I love the show, honored to be here. The top three things that prospective owners have always asked, and it did not change at all this year, is how much does a horse cost? How much does a horse cost in expenses on a yearly basis? And just about every single time, and this happened before this year, they always want to know what happens after a horse's career. And they're not talking about selling broodmare purposes. They want to know if the horse is not good enough for that, what happens to them. It's a very good question, and one that we're proud to say we started our own aftercare charity. The charity is designed to take care of all the red feather horses, whether we own them at the time of retirement or we find them later on after they've been claimed or sold.
So are there some things that owners should be asking when they're looking at partnerships that maybe they're not asking?
Well, I think as a managing partner of a syndicate, syndicates have to get paid money, and they should be asking what the manager charges. They do want to know what happens to the horse afterwards, but they don't necessarily understand the financial ramifications or benefits to a horse after a career. If it's a filly sold as a broodmare, there's residual value there. Or if you're lucky enough to have a colt that becomes a stallion, there's tremendous value there. That question generally isn't asked and should be.
All right, let's talk about some industry issues. It's been a tough 2019, going back to, I guess, February and March when the crisis first occurred with the number of deaths at Santa Anita. Going forward, what are the things that the industry here in California should be doing?
Well, first of all, Ray, we put together a number of initiatives back in March that I think the stats have shown have shown historic lows in breakdowns and fatalities. So I think the measures that we did put in place are working. I think more places should adopt it. If there's one thing we probably could do better, it's in the PR and marketing of our sport. I've often said that if I was a thoroughbred, I don't know that I would want to be a Mustang or a harness horse or out free in the wild. I think I would want to be a thoroughbred that's taken care of. If we're staring at the backstretch at Del Mar, I would choose to be that thoroughbred over anything else. I think you are pampered. I think you are treated like a king, and I would much rather have that life than any other life a horse could have.
You race mostly in California, but you guys have been around the country. Is this thing that we're going through out here right now a California problem, or is there going to be a microscope on racing everywhere, do you think?
Oh, I don't think this is a California problem. It started here, and very quickly you saw the Louisville Courier-Journal put out an article about Churchill Downs fatality rate. You saw the New York newspaper put out an article about fatalities in New York. I think this has gone across the country, and people think that we are on an island out here. Churchill, Naira, Florida, California, Maryland, we are all one industry, and this is a problem central to all of us.
All right, so what should they be doing to maybe anticipate, to maybe avoid some of the things that have happened out here? I was at a California Horse Racing Board meeting, and there's protesters there, there's sign carriers outside of the track. Is this going to be the new normal, do you think, everywhere?
It may be, and I'd like to go back to the four initiatives, really, the four main initiatives that California instituted, and I think all states should really seriously consider it, and that is the kicking out Butte from 24 to 48 hours and joint injections from 7 days to 14 days, really, I think the biggest thing that we did out here was have this new culture change, and the way that we look at horses in the morning, the way that we look at them at entry time, the way that we use data from past performances to really get a well-rounded view of horses before they're entered. Almost a vigilant look at our population, I think, has really been instrumental in why breakdowns have reduced so historically out here. And the fourth thing we did with both of our tracks, they're very deep, the dirt tracks. And I think a deeper track is a safer track.
Well, you're a horse player too. I saw you last year at the NHC finals in Las Vegas. I don't think you made the final table there.
Way to bring up a sore subject,
right? You got there, at least that was good. What are some pet peeves that you have as a horse player? Because, you know, I think a lot of people forget that horse owners are often some of the biggest horse players. I'm not saying that you're
definitely not one of the big
not
players,
one of the biggest.
I enjoy making an occasional wager every now and then.
So what are some pet peeves you have?
Well, the first pet peeve I have, and most horse players have, is when my horse doesn't win. I like to blame everybody else but myself. My biggest pet peeve these days are these sudden odd changes that you see close to post time. As a horse player, people often ask me who I like in a race. I could like every horse in a race at the right price. So when you lock in on a horse, it is really dependent on what those odds are, what the anticipated odds are. And when you're seeing the sudden changes from a horse that you would bet at 5-1, but not necessarily at 5-2, jump with 2 minutes or less to post is really disconcerting for a horse player and makes you want to play less.
Do you have any solutions on that? Because the way I see it, if you close off the betting with, say that as soon as the first horse enters the starting gate, you're still going to have the money come pouring in from the computer players. It's going to come in no matter when they shut down the betting, right?
There's a few initiatives that have been talked about that I think would be effective. It may be a little disruptive to the computer players, and I think racetracks are hesitant to upset their biggest customer right now, and I certainly can understand that. One of the things talked about is staggering anyone's bet or a percentage of a bet compared to the pool size, so you couldn't dump in with under 2 minutes to go. You would have to spread it around. There's a couple of things that would be minor disruptions to the big horse player, and I'd like to see them at least try.
Well, I've seen the same thing you have, and you think you have a winner at 5-2, and you look up at the board, and instead of 5-2, you're getting 7-5, and that is a problem. But it's a bigger problem when the horse you bet at 5-2 finishes 6th or 7th. All right, so Little Red Feathers had some celebrities. I have not yet been one of them. And ownerships, I've always considered a conflict of interest on horses. So tell me a little bit about that. Some of the celebrities you've had in partnerships.
Well, we've had before I was in the horse race business or the entertainment business, and my partner Billy Koch, his family's been in the entertainment business for a number of years, and we've known a few celebrities over our lifetimes, and we've gotten them involved in our partnerships, and some of them include Academy Award winner Helen Mirren, Super Bowl winning quarterback, probably the best quarterback of all time, Tom Brady has been with us, LeBron James. We've had a lot of really interesting celebrities, and they're really just like you and me, right? They are people who love horses and love coming out to the races, and I think they've all had a good time joining our partnerships and being out at the races.
You know, I've always thought that sports athletes, retired athletes, would be the perfect candidate for horse ownership because it's very competitive. They can't play in their sport anymore, but they can own a franchise, or they're part of a partnership, or they have their own stable. How do we get those people involved more?
That's a good question. I think the one issue there is horse ownership generally involves disposable income, and when an athlete is playing, they have a little bit more disposable income than when they retire. Most athletes that I've met after retire, they're in a very strict diet, if you will, in terms of spending or whatnot, and they like to keep all the money they made spread out through their lifetime. So discretionary income becomes a little bit more limited, which is unfortunate because at that point they're a little bit older and their love for the sport has grown. So where they've been actually instrumental is getting current athletes involved and maybe staying on either as part of management or as part of racing association or whatnot, or as a Breeders' Cup ambassador or whatnot.
All right, one last question. You like Del Mar almost as much as I do, maybe more. If somebody's coming here for the first time And you have a list of 25 things to do.
Thank you for mentioning that, Ray. Appreciate that.
You even said I stole the idea, but that's okay. What's the number one thing you would tell somebody who's coming here for the first time that they have to do?
Well, I'm gonna not be biased because we're sitting right in the restaurant, but fish tacos overlooking the racetrack is a definite must that you should do. Especially today, it's a beautiful day. Racing is about to start, and come here, get some tacos, and go bet some ponies.
You'd think that with that kind of a plug, we get free tacos here, but they're not sponsoring the Friday show. The Friday show is sponsored by the Match Series, resumes in a couple weeks at Parks. We want to thank you for watching. Scott Jagow will thankfully be back next week. Appreciate Gary joining us here. Here comes the train right by us as we end the show.